Good morning, Scott here, known as Cantaloupe to some online, and I'm bringing another video to you on a subject that's interesting to me. It might be of interest to you or someone you know. And this is the common practice of people to use a trick that is pretty well known to establish whether a person makes a connection mentally or not. That is to provide evidence, create the opportunity to make it evident that a person is aware of something, knowledgeable, and usually it's with the label of being consensual, being in agreement with the thing in question. Let me explain. Let me make an example, actually. So consider that a person might present two ideas, and there's an intermediary idea between the two that will only become evident if the connection between the first two ideas is made or exists, right? So it's a trick in psychology. There's a lot of little tricks that you can use to expose things. And really here, my point here is that it only exposes understanding of the direction of the question. It's a faulty approach to testing. It's a faulty tactic, because the astute test subject may, in fact, only detect your direction. So a question, any question, can have a trajectory. This is the thing. This is why it's faulty, because just because I see what you're driving at doesn't mean I agree with it, doesn't mean that I exhibit it, doesn't mean that I'm in agreement. I just said that. It doesn't mean that I have anything to do with where you're going with the question. But there is, in fact, every question can have a number of trajectories, and those trajectories have a target. So someone might see that target and say, okay, I see where you're going with it. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm at that location. But they will use this. They will say, oh, well, he knew where I was going with it, didn't he? He understood what I meant by it. Indeed. Indeed. And what's your point? What's your point exactly? And the sad part is that there is a point many times, and it is that, oh, if he understood where I was headed with my question, then he must already be in the know or complicit in whatever that question was about. This is what we call bullshit artistry. It's a quack branch of psychology where they aim primarily to exploit people, to expose things, and to undermine and harm people who are maybe just being themselves, just being minding their business and being without harm or crime towards others. I guess that's not really the best way to say it. People who are innocent, in other words, they come up with a hypothesis. They being these professionals, quote unquote, who are employed to research and investigate things on the suspicion that there might be something going on. They roll out this psychology to presumably expose motives and to predict behaviors. They call them red flags. We're all in the searching for red flags, like they did back in Salem, Massachusetts. They had the exact same program, believe it or not. They were looking for red flags, and it became very official. So what they do is they roll out this program, they being the psychologists, and they do their analysis, and they say, well, this person saw where I was going with this question, which means they either have experience or they're doing the thing that I was asking about, because they wouldn't have understood it otherwise. Right. So no. Actually, there's something called understanding the test. There's something called understanding the aim of the question, seeing where it leads, hypothetically, reading ahead, so to speak, in the book so that you kind of know where it's going, and rephrasing it. And unfortunately, a lot of people will just say, oh, I see where you're going with this, but they won't say it in a way that defends them or protects them from the attack. There's a way, once you understand that it's an analysis designed to incriminate you, usually, you can completely re-engineer it, but it takes some training or practice, I should say, some expertise on how to do that, to defend yourself against modern psychology. And if this all sounds paranoid, then God bless you for not being on the receiving end of it. This is real stuff, and it's in the media. It happens on a personal basis with certain people that you'll meet. These tools that sometimes I highlight in my videos are in actual practice. They're circulating. People are not always on the up and up. They're not always trying to help you out, and many times they're on a payroll. Payrolls are real. Okay. This stuff is organized. It's organized, concentrated, formal, and has many times the seal of approval of some authority. Here's the scary part. Many of these investigators are, whether you've done something or not, whether there was any event or substantiation to the charges in question that you may never even hear about, you may be investigated. You may be interrogated without even realizing it. This is the scary part. There is no more need, apparently, for probable cause. I mean, legally, yeah, but they have worked around it effectively. They have decided amongst themselves without without any kind of democracy or approval from the people who they're investigating, that the people, if they are thought to be engaged in something untoward, they shall be investigated. And the qualifier, the justification is whether or not they can get away with it, whether or not they will be found out and prosecuted themselves, the investigators, that is. Okay, well, that's not how it works. I'm sorry. You need a reason. You actually do still need probable cause. And just because it's hard to prove that you're surveilling someone illegally doesn't mean that it's not illegal. Doesn't mean that it's not illegal. You need a warrant. You need probable cause. You need due process if you're going to call it justice. If you're an agent of justice, it needs to be due process. You're not rushing to judgment. You're not claiming people are guilty before they're innocent. And you are certainly not falsely charging, arresting, and prosecuting people. But all this stuff is going on. And I feel real strong about it. It's affecting my family. So I've gone on and on. Reach out with questions or comments to whitehotrobot@gmail.com. Thank you.